What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So over the last 48 hours, it's certainly been a lot of doom and gloom for Xbox 343 and Halo, but now we have some more details coming out clarifying those rumors that were circulating online, as well as a direct response from Xbox and 343, which we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about another games as a service game that's basically shutting down updates and development. This one, though, probably won't surprise a lot of people to hear about, and we'll also be taking a look at a big sale that is currently ongoing for the Switch, as it has one of the larger titles from their holiday season marked down. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're going to start today with Forspoken. Look, reviews will go live later on today, I think a couple hours after this video goes live, and my expectations are very low for Metacritic scores or any of that. I'm thinking low 70s it would be the highest. Probably could end up in the 60s, and we're seeing Square kind of withhold or be very picky as to how many review codes are going out and where they're going. For example, I saw Skillup was told that he'd have to wait till release day if he wants a code to review, which obviously puts him well outside the window of reviewing it for people who may be looking to check out the latest PlayStation 5 release. And I had checked in, and yeah, they said the same thing to me, so I think at this point they're, for the most part, just, hey, we're sending review codes out on release with maybe a couple of outlets and organizations getting them early, but hasn't stopped other people from just finding them at retail. For example, Dan posted up a clip from his game, and it looked pretty bad. Not necessarily in terms of visuals, although I will argue I don't think the visuals that we're seeing make sense for the system requirements on PC or the resolution that Digital Foundry found on the PlayStation 5, but the dialogue is it's something. Either way, like I said, I'm not expecting anything massive when it comes from these review scores that'll be going live later on today, but I guess we'll see. Also, it does appear that the release date for Session on the Switch has now gone live, and that's from an eShop page that went up, which we can see. This is for Session Skate Sim, coming in at $49.99 with the release date of March 16th, 2023. Now, we had already heard that Session would be making its way to Nintendo's hybrid console, but we weren't given any kind of release date or anything, so it appears they just posted it live. It'll be out in a couple of months. And Session, as well as Skater XL, which Skater XL is supposed to go to the Switch. They announced it a while ago. Haven't heard anything about it. So there you go. I at some point, I guess it'll come out, and Session is just gonna beat them to the Switch, I guess. But these are games that are much more simulation based. It's kind of building off of Skate, although I will argue Skate is more arcadey than either Skater XL or Session. So you're gonna want to look into the gameplay and the aspects of these titles before you just buy it, especially if you're someone expecting maybe something like as arcadey as Skate or like Tony Hawk. You're not necessarily getting that experience, and it could be very frustrating for someone who isn't sure as to what they're getting themselves into, but if you're able to get used to it and even master it, it can end up being a very satisfying overall experience for the skateboarding sim, but definitely worth checking out if you're curious about Session, as it's coming to the Switch in a couple of months. Oh, and I do want to remind everyone that a brand new Armored Core is coming out this year. Armored Core 6 in 2023, but we don't necessarily have any gameplay for it. Well, I think that's going to be changing here pretty soon. You can see this posted up over on MP First saying Armored Core 6 hour-long presentation set for the Taipei Game Show on February 3rd. They have that marked with the time at 3 p.m. Eastern, and an hour long. I have to assume there will be gameplay of some kind. I'd love for them to just sit down and play the title for at least a 10 or 15 minutes maybe, because I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of like fluff, concept art, and just talking about their progression through development, that sort of thing. But this seems like a great spot to really show the game off in full and what exactly they were getting at here with this new release for Armored Core and how things are a bit different now after quite a while since the last release. But definitely excited to see what they have in store for us with Armored Core 6. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with 343, and Halo Infinite, which there was a lot of information flying around last week, specifically after 10,000 layoffs were announced that Microsoft would be doing over the next couple of months through their Q3. And part of those layoffs were definitely coming out of their gaming division with Bethesda, Coalition, and 343. And it appeared that 343 got hit pretty hard when it comes down to the overall percentage of the studio that was laid off. We were hearing like a third of the overall studio was dismissed at that point, and a lot of that came from the campaign or narrative side. So people who were responsible, we assumed, for building out downloadable content for the campaign, as Halo Infinite is a platform for future Halo releases. At least that's kind of how it's been built up in a very vague and roundabout way throughout their big marketing push for the eventual delay and then release of Halo Infinite. But Jason Schreier did have some clarification as to rumors around 343 stepping back completely as the developer behind Halo Infinite. We can see this posted up over on Reset Era, where he says, "I ran these bullet points by a few people. While it's true that 343 is focused on multiplayer, the stuff about campaign DLC being scrapped is false. I don't think there was much of that planned in the first place, and a lot of this is either wrong or just speculation." So, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what's worse here. The idea of campaign DLC just being canceled, or the fact that they didn't have any of it in development at all. Just odd, because they had hundreds of employees. No updates were coming out really for the multiplayer side, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I assume they're building out some big push for the new season, where they will have campaign content as well as multiplayer stuff, big blowout event, exciting stuff, and it turns out they got to the planning phase, it appears, for campaign content, and then they decided, nah, I guess we're not going to be doing that now. And then over the weekend, we did have 343 out of the Halo Twitter account directly respond to everyone online, which we can see this posted up over on their Twitter account. Halo and Master Chief are here to stay. 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. This is from Pierre Heinz, studio head. Remember, he has been now moved in to that position with Joseph Staten departing back to the Xbox publishing label. Bonnie Ross, of course, leaving the studio now. And, Pierre Heinz, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt after seeing what he was able to accomplish with Halo Master Chief Collection and that getting back on track after what was an absolutely disastrous launch. So I'm hopeful for Halo Infinite's future at this time. It's going to be a while before we see any effects of this kind of a change in leadership, as their current season has been delayed multiple times. It's going to almost be an entire year between seasons. I think it's come out to like 9 or 10 months, but hopefully after we get beyond that and we can start seeing some of the effects of this change, we'll see these updates come out at a more rapid pace. And then you have to remember we have certain affinity lurking in the backgrounds of some sort of large project that had 100 developers and nearly 3 years of development time on it. But with all that said, it is hard to be positive with 343 and how they've handled one of the biggest intellectual properties in video games, right? Like, you can think of Nintendo and say Mario. You could look at Sony and go, okay, yeah, Kratos, sure. But you look at Microsoft, outside of Master Chief, I don't really know a lot of individual mascots you can put on the back of your system when you're shipping it day one, which they did on the Xbox Series X, and they delayed Halo anyway. So yes, it's difficult right now if you were a Halo fan, but like I said, I'm optimistic about the future of Halo Infinite because I'd like to think we've gone through nearly rock bottom for the franchise and 343. Although I believe I've said that a couple of times now, and they just keep dropping lower and lower, because I thought Master Chief Collection at one point was it, and here we are with Halo Infinite. So we'll see what happens specifically with certain affinity. That is who I have my eyes on now, because if they show up with, say, a battle royale that is compelling and not trend chasing, trying to be another Warzone, but they have a genuinely unique and interesting idea for Halo Infinite, that could be the spark that really kicks things back into gear for Halo, and we'll see if they're ready to show it off maybe later on this year. Next up, let's talk about the UK sales charts, as this gives us an idea as to how Fire Emblem has done just in its opening day, which we can head over here to gamesindustry.biz, because there was another interesting statistic to go along with the idea of games benefiting heavily if they have a TV series or some other form of media to go along with the game and maybe boost sales down the road. So we can see this over on Games Industry. The Last of Us Part 1, sales jumped 238% after TV show launch. Now, we have The Last of Us Part 1 moving up to the placement number 20, so it was pretty far down the list, but the fact that the TV series had that kind of effect on sales, and this will probably be an ongoing effect as more and more people discover this series as episodes continue to drop every single week. So I think the effects are proven, by the way. Multiple case scenarios now where we had Edge Runners really push up Cyberpunk. We had the Witcher series do the same thing there. So we have the Mario movie coming up. Wouldn't be shocked if all of a sudden Nintendo started just having Switch systems and Mario games selling left, right, and center with how big that movie is most likely going to be. But if we take a look at the top 10 here, we have Fire Emblem Engage topping the charts, knocking FIFA 23 down, which that's pretty big to do in the UK, as these are all physical sales. Now, we do have Fire Emblem debuting 31% lower than its predecessor, which was Fire Emblem Three Houses in 2019. Again, I do wonder how much the sales continue to skew towards digital, especially with a game like Fire Emblem, where you're probably going to be jumping in and out of this game for what could be the next year. It is a very long and involved game, so I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people went digital with that one. Still, though, it is down 30% or so from Fire Emblem Three Houses, but it was enough to top the charts here. Then we have FIFA 23, God of War Ragnarok, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Pokemon Violet, Switch Sports, Minecraft, Animal Crossing New Horizons, and Pokemon Scarlet. And overall with Fire Emblem Engage, so far, I'm a little over 5 hours in. I'm enjoying my time with it. It's a more straightforward Fire Emblem game. Three Houses played into the idea of many more social aspects, especially with the kind of classroom setting and all this, but I like the idea of one being a bit more straightforward and to the point when it comes to, hey, just go out there, it's a tactics-based RPG, and just go through battles and build up your team. And yes, there are story elements to it, but it's not as convoluted or anything. It's very straightforward, like I said. So I'm enjoying my time with it. Visually, it is better than Three Houses. So I think it's definitely a good one to jump into. Even if you've been curious about Fire Emblem, probably a good one even for beginners. So definitely worth checking out, and it's not too surprising to see it top the sales charts here. Next up, let's talk about another games as a service title that is on its way out. They're ceasing updates and development, and that is for Marvel's Avengers. Probably not too surprising, as I'm sure many people right now are watching this thinking, oh, that's still a thing? That's still going? Yeah, they've been doing downloadable content, different updates for cosmetics. I believe they just introduced Winter Soldier, so it's been active this whole time, despite the critical reception that was pretty poor, the player concurrent counts not being great. They've stuck with it. And Crystal Dynamics now appears to be moving on from it. And it was kind of funny how all this worked out. For example, you can see this posted up with the initial story coming out of Xputer saying Marvel's Avengers has disassembled. Plans to cease development on Marvel's Avengers have accelerated at Crystal Dynamics, with sources pointing to an announcement as early as next week. And just like an hour or two later, they did post this up on the Avengers website. Final update on the future of Marvel's Avengers. So they didn't even wait, like I said, an hour or two, definitely not to next week, saying after 2.5 years and introducing 12 of Earth's mightiest heroes following update 2.8 on March 31st, 2023, we will no longer add new content or features to Marvel's Avengers. All official support for the game will end on September 30th, 2023. Both single and multiplayer gameplay will continue to be available. No new cosmetics are coming to the marketplace, and all final balance updates will occur in update 2.8 in March. Along with the end of development, we'll also be turning off the cosmetics marketplace. When update 2.8 launches on March 31st, 2023, credits will no longer be purchasable, and all remaining credit balances will be converted into in-game resources to aid ongoing adventures. Now, they do say they're going to make all the game's marketplace, challenge card, shipment cosmetic content free. It's just available. Every single outfit, takedown, emote, nameplate from the marketplace, it's all just going to be free onwards if you own a copy of the game. There is one other thing to point out here. They will be delisting Marvel's Avengers from different storefronts digitally, so if, this is going to sound funny, if you've been curious about it, might not be a terrible time to get in before September 30th when they will be delisted. The reason I say that is because all they're describing and what I'm reading through here is that it's going to turn into a regular game without the cosmetic shop or the microtransactions or any of that. It's just going to be free, just out there. And the multiplayer will still be there, so you can play online with friends, and the full single player will also be available. Now, that's not to say that the Destiny-like aspect to it, especially with the UI and all the other things, will be taken out of the game. That'll all still be present, but the idea that you won't necessarily have to grind your way through different parts of the game that seem almost artificial at times to get an emote, it could end up being a more enjoyable experience. Again, as weird as that sounds, since this is a story about them discontinuing support and essentially shutting down the live service aspect of it, but it's reverting to just a standard game then. And Crystal Dynamics, I'm sure, they had plans going forward to continue along with this, but we saw what happened when Square decided, we don't really need our Western division anymore. We're going to sell this off to Embracer at what was, I mean, a bargain bin deal, right? With how much they really had to pay for it. So at that point, I'm sure they looked around and said, well, we didn't sign up for this Marvel's Avengers game to support this going forward, maybe years and years. And it's not necessarily something that's just raking money in. So that's kind of it for it. But it is something to look back on with these games as a service games that the industry just seemed to fall in love with over the last, what, a decade or so now. And the Avengers, think about that kind of star power with intellectual properties. The Avengers wasn't able to make a games as a service title work that's just ongoing. Is it really worth it for these companies that are taking 5, 6, even 7 years to develop different titles to continue chasing that as it is now? I think it'd be better if they could try to innovate and go beyond what we know it as, which is cosmetic shop, battle pass, artificial grinding, and so on there, which is one of the reasons I'm kind of concerned now about Suicide Squad after seeing the leak with a battle pass. But again, it's Rocksteady. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for now until they're able to explain it to us further. But there you have it. Marvel's Avengers, now kicking the live service elements and seemingly turning into just a regular game. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Lunar New Year sale that is currently live for Nintendo. We can head over here to the deals and sales page. Starting with Ubisoft at the top here, their sale will be ongoing until February 2nd. And yeah, it's right, Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. That is currently on sale digitally at $45. So hey, if you were someone who was saying, well, you know, I can wait for Mario Rabbids to drop in price, there it is at $45, but let's face it, I know many of you are like, I can go lower. Hey, I paid $10 for Kingdom Battle, and I can't really fault you because here it already is for $45 digitally. You do also have the Assassin's Creed Anniversary Edition Mega Bundle at $45, which has quite a bit of Assassin's Creed in there, but you also have the Ezio Collection if you want a little less at $20. And I'm always happy to plug Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, that one being $4.94, or even Starlink Battle for Atlas. I know there's a lot of talk around kind of the Toys to Life aspect of it, but at $12 for kind of that Star Fox storyline that goes along with it, that's not a bad pickup. We also have Capcom doing their own Lunar New Year sale that I wanted to point out here, this ending the 1st of February, and yeah, you have a bunch of Resident Evil thrown in here. Revelations, by the way, an underrated Resident Evil title at $8. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, that one being at $10. Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin, $19.99. Mega Man 11 at $10. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection at $15. You have all the different Mega Man Legacy collections marked down to $8 a piece. The Zero ZX Legacy Collection at $15. And the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles at $25. And the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection down to $12. Certainly worth checking out some of these different deals over on Nintendo's sales and deals page. And of course, leave some recommendations below in the comments. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you picking up Dead Space Remake? 12% said yes, picking it up as soon as possible. 40% said yes, but later when I have time or it's on sale. And then 48% said no, I'm not interested. Okay, it's about 52% are at least interested in the game, and some may have to wait till a little later on or maybe pick it up when it's on sale, which I can't really blame you because right now, especially over the last month or two and then a month or two coming up, there's a lot of games that are coming out. So you gotta pick and choose what you're getting into right now. But I am really excited for a Dead Space remake. I think it's gonna do well sales-wise, and I'm very curious to see what kind of Metacritic score it puts up, because it does look like they've done quite a few changes to sort of the formula, the gameplay, and some of the presentation of Dead Space, but we'll find out later this week. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Josh saying, if Nintendo needed to drum up more interest in the Switch, they could always drop the price. To me, that is the most amazing thing, that they have gone this long with no price drop. Yeah, the fact that we're talking about it potentially hitting 150 million Switch systems sold, they might not drop the price. Like, that's the weirdest part about this. You expect the systems to get cheaper as we go along, and technically they got it cheaper with the Switch Lite, but also on the other hand, they raised the price $50 with the Switch OLED. It didn't make the games run any better. They look better in handheld mode, but they still have that in their back pocket where they could, we'll drop everything $50. The Switch Lite will be $150. The regular red box Switch at $250, and then the OLED coming in at $300. And that's very easy to market at the new low price for this really popular system. And oh yeah, here's Zelda, here's a new Mario, and oh yeah, Metroid Prime 4. So yeah, there's a lot they can do over this upcoming fiscal year to make their way to another 20 million sold fiscal year, and that would be pretty ridiculous. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whereas 343, Xbox, Halo, what do you think about the series now going forward with 343 doubling down that Halo is here to stay? Can they turn this whole thing around? Let me know about that. And then also, what about Marvel's Avengers? Are you surprised to hear that they are ceasing support and updates for it? And now are you maybe curious about checking it out as more of a single player experience without all of the currencies and live service elements? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.